What if your peaceful getaway turned into a nightmare you couldn't escape? Paul here, and I'm about to reveal the chilling tale of a cabin trip that still haunts my every waking moment. Are you ready to confront the darkness? It started innocently enough, a retreat into nature. But what we found lurking in the shadows shattered our sense of safety. We thought we were alone, but something out there was watching us, waiting. The excitement was palpable as my friends and I headed to the secluded cabin deep in the woods. Finally, after weeks of grinding at work, we had our escape from reality. The drive out was filled with laughter. The car windows rolled down to let in the crisp, fresh air. The surroundings were picturesque, tall trees stretching toward the sky, their leaves whispering with the wind, inviting us into their calming embrace. After settling in, we decided to take a quick hike to explore the serene forests that enveloped our temporary home. Sunlight danced through the branches, creating playful shadows on the forest floor, and we felt blissfully at peace, reveling in the beauty surrounding us. But as the sun began to dip below the horizon, the golden light transformed into foreboding hues of indigo and gray. That's when the atmosphere shifted, the giggles quieted, almost as if the trees were leaning in, listening. A stillness fell over us, a weighty silence that seemed to absorb our joy. It was eerie. A cold breeze, unlike any we had felt, brushed against us, sending shivers down my spine. No one spoke. The unease was palpable in the air. I remember exchanging uneasy glances with my friends, each of us suddenly aware that we weren't alone. Something else lurked just beyond our sight. With each rustle of the leaves, my heart thudded louder, a primal warning echoing in the stillness. What had been a simple getaway transformed into something darker, something waiting in the shadows. At first night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, an unsettling tension crept into the air. We gathered around the fireplace, laughter bubbling up, but it felt dissonant in the growing darkness outside. It began with whispers, disturbing noises filtering in from the woods, faint yet distinct. At first, we brushed it off as the rustling of leaves, a mere trick of the wind, or maybe the scrabbling of a small animal. But soon, those noises transformed. Footsteps seemed to crunch against the forest floor, deliberate and close. My heart raced as I leaned closer to the doorway, each creak of the wood floor amplifying the silence surrounding us. Then, in the dim glow of our cabin, someone, Sarah, I think, froze mid-laugh and pointed toward the window. What we all saw sent chills tumbling down our spines. Just outside, on the fringe of the tree line, stood a shadowy figure. It was shrouded in darkness, indistinct but undeniably watching us. Our laughter died, replaced by a weighty silence as we peered into the inky blackness. Panic clawed at my throat as paranoia began to entwine itself around each of us. Was it just a trick of the light? One could argue that. But standing a hair's breadth from the legend of a haunted cabin, let me tell you, rationality slips away like leaves in the wind. No one dared move, each heartbeat thrumming louder than the last. We were no longer just friends on a getaway. We were prey in the grip of the unknown, and just outside those walls, something was waiting. The feeling of being observed was unnerving, and every rustle in the night amplified our anxiety. We huddled together, wide-eyed, but sleep remained elusive, a distant hope slipping through our fingers. It was as if the dark forest outside conspired with whatever haunted us, holding us captive in our own minds. Then, things escalated. It began with the flickering of lights, a dimness that pulsed like a heartbeat. My eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign of reassurance. But comfort was a fleeting memory. Suddenly, the rocking chair in the corner seemed to draw our gaze. I swear it creaked softly at first, like a whisper beckoning us closer. Before I could voice my dread, it began to sway, slowly at first, then quicker, almost frantically. Each movement sent chills racing down my spine, making the hair on my arms stand on end. It was as if an unseen hand was urging it, a phantom breath guiding its dance. "Did you see that?" Someone finally whispered, breaking the suffocating silence. Our hearts raced in unison, fear binding us tighter than the darkness outside. The presence in the cabin felt sinister, like it was laughing at our terror, relishing the torment it orchestrated. I glanced out the window, half expecting to see the dark figure again, but it was gone. Yet that sense of presence lingered, thickening the air. It felt like something unspeakable was watching us, waiting for the moment we let our guard down. Each creak of the floorboards beneath our feet echoed as a warning, a reminder that we were not alone. We were never alone. As the night deepened, an oppressive silence enveloped us, one so thick you could almost taste it. We huddled together, the flickering candlelight casting eerie shadows across our faces. Each creak of the cabin felt like a whisper beckoning us toward the unknown. We tried to cling to reason, my friends and I, desperate for any shred of logic to hold on to. But the more we searched for explanations, the more the terror seeped into every corner of the room. Disturbances began to feel less like innocent anomalies and more like taunts, a sick game played by some unseen force determined to strip away our sanity. My heart raced, and I could hear their unsteady breaths matching my own. Each strange noise gnawed at our nerves until we could no longer separate fiction from reality. Finally, that last night, it was unbearable. It started with soft thuds, almost like a distant drum, but quickly escalated into something monstrous. Thunderous banging erupted against the cabin walls, shaking us to the core. It felt like a creature from the shadows was trying to break in, as if whatever haunted this place had grown weary of hiding. We screamed, our voices drowning in the chaos. Panic took over, and in that moment, we were no longer friends. We were prey. We fought the urge to flee, paralyzed by sheer horror. The walls felt like they were closing in, and I could almost hear the laughter of something lurking just beyond our vision. With each bang, our rationality shattered, leaving only raw fear. I can't shake the memory of that night. The terror, the madness, the realization that we weren't alone, and whatever it was, it thrived on our fear. I can still feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins as we scrambled to pack our things. It was a desperate flurry of motion, an instinctual move to escape the night and the horrors that dwelled within those wooden walls. With trembling hands, I shoved clothes into my bag, barely glancing at my friends, who looked as white as ghosts. The thunder still rumbled outside, but it was the pounding in our hearts that drowned out everything else. As we piled into the car, the eerie quiet around the cabin felt suffocating. I remember looking back at the silhouette of that structure, how it loomed in the flickering light. It seemed alive, watching, waiting. What secrets lay hidden within its walls? Was it just the wind playing tricks, or was something far darker at play? Later that night, as we drove away, we could not shake the feeling that we had escaped something sinister. Conversations began to turn. Could it have been the cabin's dark history? Stories of past occupants who vanished without a trace. Whispers of a malevolent spirit that lingered like a shadow. Each theory felt more chilling than the last, echoing in our minds as we sped down the winding road, leaving behind our dreams of a perfect getaway, replaced instead by the haunting memories of what we had stumbled upon in the woods. After we fled the cabin, The experience lingered like a dark cloud over us. We had all these sleepless nights, tossing and turning, every creak of the house echoing some sinister thought. I would sit up, heart racing, trying to forget the shadows that seemed to dance just beyond the flickering glow of my bedside lamp. The nights blended into anxious days, each moment haunted by the memories of that retreat gone so horribly wrong. Whenever we dared to discuss it, whether we were in a group, around the fire, or even at a bar, I could feel the tension creep in. You could see it on everyone's faces. The terror was still there, but buried under layers of bravado and disbelief. Did we really see that? Nah, it must have been the darkness playing tricks on us. But deep down, we all knew something was off. What truly haunted that cabin? I often replay those nights in my head, trying to find answers to the haunting questions that persist like echoes in a long abandoned hall. What was it that watched us from the woods? Was it simply our fears manifesting? Or was there something sinister, something that realized we had stumbled into its domain? Knowing the truth might not offer any solace, but at least it would silence those horrifying doubts that claw at the edges of my mind.
Hi, Lisa here. I'm going to share my spine-tingling cabin story. It was supposed to be a relaxing getaway with friends, but little did we know it would become a nightmare. Our cabin was tucked away in a remote forest, a promising escape that quickly turned eerie as night fell. I remember pulling up to the cabin surrounded by towering trees that seemed to whisper secrets among themselves. At first we laughed, our chatter echoing off those ancient wooden walls, blissfully unaware of the unsettling energy that clung to the atmosphere. As dusk cast long shadows, the light faded faster than our comfort. One evening, while sitting around the fire pit, we recounted urban legends, teasing each other about the creepy tales we knew. But as the flames flickered, an icy chill seeped into the air. I paused as a strange feeling prickled down my spine. I could have sworn I saw movement between the trees, a shadow perhaps. I dismissed it, blaming it on our minds playing tricks, but the laughter had faded into nervous chuckles. That night, I was awakened by soft rustling outside my window. It felt like something was watching us, its gaze heavy against the darkness. I crept to the window, heart racing, and strained to see into the black woods. Just then, a low growl echoed through the night, a sound that made the blood in my veins run cold. Instinct shouted at me to step back, but my curiosity kept me glued to the spot, trembling in fear. The landscape was breathtaking. Tall trees stretched toward the evening sky, their leaves rustling gently in the fading light. But as night crept in, so did an unsettling isolation. It was as if the world outside our cabin had vanished, leaving us with an uncomfortable silence that wrapped around us like a thick fog. I could feel my pulse quicken as darkness settled in, erasing the comforting sight of the woods and replacing it with a black canvas filled with unseen threats. We huddled closer to the flickering campfire, its glow providing only a fragile sense of security. My friends and I exchanged forced laughs, trying to stave off the growing unease that gnawed at my gut. But the warmth of the flames did little to ease the prickling feeling at the back of my neck. I sensed that something was watching us from beyond the shadows. Then it happened. A strange flicker of light pierced the darkness in the trees just beyond our campsite. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks, but there it was again. An eerie flash, bright and brief, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. I felt my heart pounding, and our conversations halted abruptly as we turned our gazes toward the forest. Anxiety surged among us, feeding on our fears of the unknown. What could be causing those lights? Were we alone out here? My mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. Something was off, and deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that the night was just beginning to reveal its secrets. I remember that night vividly. Even though it feels like a nightmare I can't shake off. As we settled into the cabin, an unsettling hush enveloped the woods, almost as if nature itself was holding its breath. That eerie silence was soon broken, though, not by the natural sounds I expected, but by soft, insistent whispers. They curled around the walls and slipped through the cracks, creeping into my mind. At first, I thought it might be my friends playing a prank, but the sound felt too ethereal, too unsettling. I looked over at them, their expressions mirroring my unease. It was impossible. We were completely alone in this isolated place. The whispers seemed to rise and fall as if sharing secrets I wasn't meant to hear. Propelled by a mix of curiosity and dread, I edged closer to the window. Peering out into the dark, my blood turned to ice. There, just beyond the fragile barrier of light from our cabin, pale figures moved through the trees, ghostly shapes drifting silently, leaving no tracks in the underbrush. They seemed to lack faces, mere shadows slipping through the night, swaying unnaturally in the dim light. Panic washed over me in a freezing wave. It felt as though the air was charged with some malevolent energy, pressing down on us, wrapping us in an icy dread. We weren't alone anymore. Whatever was out there had crossed into our world, and in that moment, it became painfully clear. Something beyond our understanding was happening in those woods. As we sat there, the oppressive atmosphere wrapped around us like a shroud. It was a suffocating kind of fear, the kind that you feel deep in your bones. The whispers grew louder, and it felt like the cabin itself was alive, breathing in sync with our rising panic. I remember glancing at the old wooden chairs, their legs creaking as if shifting on their own, nudging closer to us, as if eager to listen. Then, the lights. The flickering bulbs cast erratic shadows that danced across the walls. Every time the lights dimmed, it was like the darkness held its breath, ready to swallow us whole. I swear, I saw something dart past the window, a fleeting glimpse of a figure. But when I turned to look closely, nothing was there. Just the trees, standing sentinel in the pale moonlight, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Temperature plummeted, and I could see my breath swirl in the air, mingling with the dread clenching my heart. We huddled together, seeking warmth, but we were plunged into the chill of our own fear. My mind raced with questions. What was happening? Was it our imaginations playing tricks on us, or had we awakened something sinister? In that dark and disorienting night, our grasp on reality slipped away like sand through our fingers. Desperation clawed at us, urging us to hang on until morning. As the sun's first eerie light pierced through the dense forest, we made a silent pact to abandon the cabin once and for all. What was supposed to be a peaceful retreat had mutated into a relentless nightmare, sapping every bit of our nerve. Much like Paul, I can't shake the unsettling feeling that the cabin's dark past was whispering to us through every creak of the floorboards and every haunting apparition. This surreal merging of reality and the paranormal left an indelible mark on us, casting a shadow of dread over any future secluded getaways. If our chilling tale has left you haunted, imagine the hidden horrors that others could reveal. Have you ever experienced something so spine-tingling at a remote cabin or isolated spot? Share your terrifying stories in the comments below. Perhaps your tale might even make it into our next video. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unknown. Keep your nightmares alive by hitting the subscribe button so you never miss a single bone-chilling story. Like this video if it sent a shiver down your spine, and engage with our community of horror lovers eager to explore the unexplained. Until our next ordeal, stay vigilant and beware of the unseen lurking in the shadows.